Okay, we're going to make some flying geese units, and we're going to make them using the no waste method. And with the no waste method, you get 4 out of each time you do it. You'll get 4 units. And what I did was I made this chart, and it's a little different than most of the charts that you've read or have looked at. For one thing, it's very complete, and it's very easy to follow. And you can get this for free at my website, which is www.iquiltstudio.com, and it's underneath, or the page that it's in is called Free Tutorials. There'll be a little tab at the top. And there's other things too on the website. There's in the hoop embroidery designs that I've created, projects, in the hoop projects, and embroidery files, and other tutorials as well that have to do with sewing or embroidery. So anyways, that's iquiltstudio.com, and we'll get started now on making these beautiful no waste flying geese. All of my pieces that I cut are oversized, so they're not your typical measurement for flying geese. This is the no waste method, and even so I oversized them just ever so slightly. And I made a chart, and what I like about this chart is that if you go and you look up a quilt design and it says that your finished flying geese has to be, say, 2 by 4 inches, then these 2 columns all relate to the finished measurement. So if they want it to be, say, 2 by 4, then what you do is you start at the beginning of this row, and the size of the square A, which is this one, and which is the geese, it will be the width that they called for. So the width that they called for was 4 plus 1.5 inches. And that's a little bigger. Normally it's 1 1/4, but I went 1.5. And so, so then 4 plus 1.5 is 5.5. And then for the sky part, the background, that's our bees, and that's these squares here. And the size of those 4 squares, each square B, is the height that they called for, which was 2 in our case, plus 1 1/4 inches. And that's a lot too, because normally it's only 7/8 of an inch, but I made that a little bit bigger. So, so the height that they called for was 2. 2 plus 1 1/4 is 3 1/4. So these squares are each cut 3 1/4 on each side. It's 3 1/4 squares squared. And then this one is 5.5. So then, so you start here with the instructions. You cut your big one A and your 4 little ones B, which we already did. And then you take 2 of them and turn them over so that they're right sides down, so that right sides are together, and you place them on your square. So and when this flips over, I'm not sure how it's gonna, I think that's right. I know there's writing on here, but oh well. So I'm just gonna place them on, and when this flips over, might, let me see. I think it might go that way, but I am not sure. If it's upside down, oh well. Okay. So then you place those on, and I'm kind of taking a shortcut. So, and then you draw a diagonal line. Hopefully I can do that right. And I'm going to use a red friction pen because this comes off with iron. The iron is, I think, the steam in the iron. Although I'm not too happy with these ones that I bought. They're not very dark. Okay. So I'm going to leave the ruler on just for a minute. I'm going to get my pins, and I'm going to just pin into the corners so I'm far enough away from my line. So just one pin there in that corner, and one pin here. And now I can remove my ruler and pin the other side. Okay, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to sew down each line. Now, a quarter of an inch, I'm going to sew a quarter of an inch on either side of that line. But you know, I have one of these rulers, and I even have a small one from Fons and Porter. And to be honest, they're so nice because you just put them on there and you can draw your line and you don't have to worry about, you know, then you just follow your new line. Now I'll follow on the inside of that new line, but I don't know. I do have my machine set up to sew a quarter of an inch seam, but sometimes it's nice just to have a cheater. It's not that heavy of a line either. Well, this one is, but this one didn't come out too well. That's okay. So we'll go over to the machine and we'll sew a quarter of an inch on each side of this line. Okay, so that's sewn on both sides of the line, and now that was these instructions here where we sewed it. Now we're going to cut down the middle of this line. Okay. So we're going to take one piece and we're going to put it aside, and now it looks like, well, it doesn't look like we did this and we put the one aside, and now we're going to fold these back and press them to look like that. So, and if you start your fabric before you cut it, and before you even, you know, right when you get it, when the big yardage, you can just finger press that over and then just press it with the iron. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I pressed both of them, and we'll put one aside, and we'll put one of the squares aside with it. And then now this piece looks like this, so now we're on to this step. And we're going to take one of our squares and we're going to turn it over, and we're going to mark the diagonal before I place it on here. However, this diagonal, this fabric has some lettering on it, so I want to just experiment for a minute. So let's see, if I place it like this and I stitch, when I flip it, the lettering's going to be to the side. So I want it to be, let's see, no, completely around. There, okay. So if I placed it like this, and then once I brought it around, the lettering is you know, in the right direction. So is this one. I think I just lucked out with that one, but okay. So now I know how I'm going to place it, so I'm just going to put it right here and mark my diagonal in there. So we're going to sew right on the diagonal. I mean, I'm sorry, not on it. We're going to sew on either side of it again, because we're going to get two pieces out of this. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to go and put this on here, lining up the corners as best I can, and this point should come, you know, right in the center down there. Place a pin in each corner. And then I'll go and sew 1/4 of an inch on each side of this line. Okay, so now I sewed on each side of that center line, and now we're going to cut the center line, this red line. Oops, I forgot to take my pins off. So then that's it, and now we just have to trim it. And you can see that's the geese. I'm going to go and press each one, and I actually am, when I press, I set the seam first, because it does soften the thread first if you just press and then go. As long as you don't go in this direction, you don't stretch it out. You know, as long as you press in the direction of the seam when you open it, it's fine. You won't distort it too much. So I'm going to go do that. So you can see with this method, with giving a little bit of extra here, you know, the width plus 1 1/2 and the height plus 1 1/4, it just gives you this extra up here to trim off, and I just think it's just makes quilting so much more enjoyable, because now, and I don't have the black ruler yet. I plan on getting one because I just think they're so fabulous, but I'm going to use the 45 on this ruler to make sure that so this is similar to what the Black Rock does, but there's an etched out channel on both sides of the triangle. So I want to line up that 45 with the triangle, because, you know, let's face it, this is a 45-degree angle here. So that's what we want. And then the 1/4 inch right here, let me get like a pointer. This 1/4 of an inch, okay. From here to here is a 1/4 of an inch, so that's our seam. And the 1/4 of an inch ends right here, and the 45 intersects it. And that intersection is right where you want your point of your triangle to be. And as long as this is lined up, then, which it is, and you have both lines intersecting, this line and this 1/4 inch line and this 45-degree line, and the 45 is lined up all the way down here, those 3 things, you're good to go, and you can cut the top. So if I had a regular small ruler, which I do, but the small ruler that I have, the 4.5 that I have, that 45 doesn't help me. It's not in the right place. But we'll use this one in a minute. So for right now, I'll just go ahead and I'll trim the top, and see, I have so much to trim. Not a lot. It's not a lot of waste, but it just makes everything more enjoyable. So then once that is trimmed, and I know that 45 is good, I can go ahead and I can use this 4.5 inch ruler, because the instructions do tell you that they need to be trimmed 2.5. This particular one that I'm making, before it's sewn in, the height and the width should be 4.5. And this is a 4.5 inch ruler, so it makes it easy. And the height has to be 2.5. So that we'll just have to, we'll still use this ruler with it. So we got the top done. So now everything's fine. I can line up the top. There's a 1/4 inch frosted area on this ruler, on this side, and on this side actually. And I can make sure that that 1/4 inch line is at the tip here. And I know that this is going to be 4.5 inches. So half of that is 2 1/4. So here's my 2 1/4 line. Here's, 1, 2 1/4, because this is 2.5. And this line here has to be lined up with the point, so it has to be moved over. And so the point and the 1/4 inch line, and now since I already cut it, I kind of have to look down and make sure that it's straight. See, here's my 45 line way over here on this ruler, so it's not helpful. But I can see that it's straight. And now I can cut this side and this side, and I'm going to twirl my small mat, even though it's not a pivoty mat, those expensive ones. I don't think you need it. It's fine, just like this. These pivot just fine. Anyways, so there's that. And so now we just have to, I'm just going to leave it, I'm not going to pivot it anymore. I have to trim this side, and that's supposed to be at 2.5. And so on this ruler, the black is always the 1/2 inch. So all I have to do is bring it down to where my 2.5 is down here. So because this is a 1/2 inch from here to here, and then so that's 1 1/2, 2 1/2. This is my 2 1/2 inch mark, and so, and I like to get it so that the mark is on the fabric, you know, like 1 fabric hair's width. And if you had that other ruler, it would be so much easier. It would be all in one step. You'd be done. But, oh well. A lot of people don't have that ruler, so it's good to know it how to do it this way. And that's it. And there's your perfect flying geese. So it's got the 1/4 inch up here for sewing. You'll have a perfect point. And it was just so enjoyable to do it. So once again, I'm going to take this ruler, just because it has that mark, and I'm wondering if I could, that would not be helpful, no. I'd have to figure that one out, but I'll just do it the way I've been doing it. And so I line that up, and this line is lined up with the triangle. This 1/4 inch, this line here intersects with the 45 line right at the point. And then I'll go ahead and trim the top. Okay, so that ruler, I'm done with that ruler. Now I can use this ruler, and I'm going to start it with the white on the top. This is a Creative Grids ruler. So I'm going to put the 2 1/4 at the point. So where this 2 1/4 and this 1/4 inch line intersect is right where the point should be. And then I'm going to see how I have to pivot it. So I have to look up here at my edge, and it looks like I might have given myself a little more on this one, and I actually did. I gave myself like a thread's width more, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and trim that a little bit. I did that subliminally, so I start in like a 1/4 inch in, rock back, and then go forward. So yeah, I've got like about a thread's width here. I'm just going to lop it off. I probably didn't need to do that, but, and so now I can just turn it to do this side. And now I have to trim this side, this edge to 2 1/2. So the black is already at the top. So I've got a 1/2, 1 1/2, 2 1/2 is this line. And it's interesting because now you can see that this ruler is lined up with the triangle here. It's actually a little off, but oh well. So there's the 2 1/2. Okay. Yeah, that was because I went and trimmed that again. Okay, so that's nice. So it's perfect. These are two perfect half square triangles. I mean, half square triangles. Flying geese. My brain is on autopilot. And then I still have these two to do from that piece. So I really didn't waste that much, and it just made life so much easier. So I love this chart. If you wanted to change it, it's the status or the standard is width plus 7/8 and height plus, I'm sorry, no, width plus 1 1/4 and height plus 7/8, but I just don't like that. So anyways, if you want this, you can go to my website and get this chart and this whole sheet for free. The website is www.iquiltstudio.com, and we also provide long arm services. There's in the hoop embroidery designs that I've created, digital files that you could purchase for relatively inexpensive prices, and there's some tutorials, and there's just a lot there. So feel free to look around and contact me if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to help anybody. Okay, thanks.